Hello there. Let's get straight to the point. I made a TTRPG based on the world of Project Moon. If you don't know what those are, TTRPG stands for Tabletop Role-Playing Game, a type of group storytelling medium where a game master sets the scene and players make their choices. You may recognize the name Dungeons & Dragons as the most famous TTRPG. Meanwhile, Project Moon is a Korean game developer that made the Lobotomy Corporation, Library of Ruina, and Limbus Company games, set inside a dark, dystopian megacity with unbelievable technology. Now, as for why I did this, I'd seen some Project Moon RPGs out there, and from the brief glance that I took, they seemed very well made, but I just wanted to make my own, represent the game in what I thought was its most interesting aspects, and so I did, after a lot of work. I only got to playtest it once, halfway through the development, so it's still a little janky, but it's functional. You can read the full rule set now if you want. The name is Stars of the City, and the link will be in the description, no charge to read. I released the RPG on Reddit to very minimal applause, more like a polite clap. Now, I don't make games to get famous or anything, but I do make them to be played. And if people aren't reading it, they aren't playing it. So, to get the system out there, and to stoke my ego, I'm making this series, which will serve as a making of and a tutorial on how to play the game. In this first episode, I'll be detailing what I wanted out of the system before I even started making it, so you can see why I made some of the decisions that you may or may not agree with. Without further ado, let's get started. First off, I knew from the beginning that I wanted Ruina-style combat. As close as I could get to it, anyways. For those unfamiliar, in Library of Ruina, each character has a number of speed dice, which determine how many actions they take and in what order. Each skill is made of multiple combat dice, which have effects like attack, block, and dodge. When two skills meet, they clash, with each die being compared to the one opposing it. Only one will come out on top and damage their target. The system, therefore, would be all about figuring out which of your skills are best against the foes, and how to manipulate who can target who during combat to make sure you're always fighting on your own terms. Of course, Ruina is a card game, but I've tried to make card-based TTRPGs before. God, I've tried. It's not fun. So instead, each character will be able to create their own set of 4 to 9 skills, depending on their level, based on a modular system. In addition, clashing will build up emotion points, which can be unleashed in the form of powerful egos, which are obtained from defeating bosses called abnormalities. This ego system is based on Limbus Company, with each ego activating a passive effect for the rest of the battle. I originally thought about making this more similar to Ruina's system, with a shared pool of effects that build up over time, but group resources rarely go well, and it slowed down the game. I'm keeping that in. With all this complicated combat that I haven't even scratched the surface of, I knew that narrative play needed to be much, much simpler. So I settled on the following. When you attempt something difficult, roll a number of 10-sided dice based on the difficulty. 1 for hard tasks, 3 for easier ones, or 2 for something in the middle. Then compare the results to your relevant stat. If at least one of the dice are lower than your stat, you succeed. Yay! That's about it. You can also accumulate injuries and anxieties that add to your good dice in order to make them worse, but I'll cover that in the next episode. You don't even need to keep track of any sort of inventory. You're usually assumed to have any simple tools your character would reasonably take up with you on a mission. Or you may still keep track of a few notable treasures, but there isn't any system for items you use to have any set mechanical impact. There are just too many crazy technologies in the city to keep track of them, and too many ways to use that tech in inventive ways. It's up for players and the GM to figure out how an item can be used in any given situation, instead of limiting ideas with set options. Some might prefer an itemized system, and in other settings I might agree. But trust me, there's enough to keep track of in this system. There's no set classes, but there are archetypes that come with 2 narrative abilities to let you have some mechanical complexity without having to keep track of too much, and a combat ability, so you have a passive effect. It also comes with a tragic flaw for you to lean into your limits. I highly recommend not avoiding your flaw. Some of them can be pretty funny, and they add depth to your character. If you don't like the presented archetypes, feel free to mix and match. I just put the abilities together so you'd have a jumping off point. Now, I wanted the system to be hard. I wanted failure to be a possibility in any fight. But to do that, I'd ironically have to make death an uncommon thing. See, as much as a proper exploration of the city would be hyper-lethal, it takes too damn long to make a character in this system, and losing your ego-wielding super fixer to a trash crab just because you rolled poorly isn't fun. So, failure in combat doesn't mean your characters die. You should still suffer consequences, though. Maybe you lose a limb and have to go through the rest of the mission without it. Or maybe your favorite NPC Blorbo will die. Or maybe one of you will actually die, but only after a struggle to save their life even after combat has officially ended. Or maybe it's a heroic sacrifice to hold back the enemy. Death isn't an impossibility, but it should be saved for memorable moments and have some way to avoid it. You are the player characters after all, and there's always some expectation of plot armor. The structure of a campaign in this system is meant to be segmented into missions, which should usually be about 1 to 3 sessions each. Players gain a level up after each mission, and in between missions they can revise their kits and have some downtime interactions between each other or their favorite NPCs. Missions don't have to be formal assignments if that's not right for your game. They may just be notable checkpoints during your journey, if that works better. Well, that's about it for the overview. Next episode, which I will hopefully have out in about a week or 2, we'll go over narrative play, then we'll be going over combat, and I'll figure it out from there. Thanks for taking the time to watch, and if you like what you've heard so far, check out the system in the description below. The more people I know enjoy the system, the more motivated I'll be to create new content. I've also got a Blue Sky, even if I don't use it that much, so check that out if you're interested in being notified when I update the system, or have any other projects going on. I have no way to end this episode, and I'm creatively bankrupt, so, in the wise words of Escu, this video ends.